What we're talking about right now is Tesla is ready for prime time as an EV and AV manufacturer.
It's not a major position for us, but in our view, the company is likely to go bankrupt. Company's likely to go bankrupt. Company's likely to go bankrupt.
What's up, guys? Ben here, and welcome to Motivation to Invest. Tesla is a fantastic stock which has defied expectations and has now defied gravity. Its share price has reached nearly $1,600 a share, and its shareholders are incredibly happy. Tesla's crazy valuation makes it larger than all the auto companies in the US put together. This is mind-blowing. Ever since day one, people have doubted Tesla. The bulls have said it's been overpriced and overvalued with no true fundamentals.
We'll stick with the facts on the ground, which is that they make 1/100th the number of cars that GM's makes. They have no profitability in sight.
I think that the bottom line is that if you want to stick with the facts on the ground, you're never going to be an investor in Tesla.
It's a recitation.
I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. That's just fact of the matter.
Citing things that are obviously understood by the world.
All right. And if you want to invest, I'm not saying you are, but if you want to invest in fantasy,
neutral corners.
If you want to invest in fantasy, TSLA. Go ahead.
It smashed its quarterly earnings for Q1 and Q2 in 2020, thus placing it in a very good position to be included into the S&P 500. If it is included into the S&P 500, this means that every single index fund, every single Vanguard S&P 500 index fund or iShares S&P 500 index fund will have to purchase Tesla, thus injecting much more capital into the stock and causing the share price to rocket even more. But the real question is Tesla stock in a bubble, or will it continue going to the moon? Well, in this video, we're going to find out as I pit the Tesla bulls against the Tesla bears to see who's right. Let's dive in. Welcome back, guys, to Motivation to Invest. Before we get started, it would really mean a lot to me if you give this video a big thumbs up. That really helps out with the YouTube algorithm, which allows me to create more great content like this for you guys. In addition, if you want more investing tips and exclusive stock picks, which I personally am investing into, then you should definitely subscribe to this channel and turn that notification bell on. With that being said, let's get into the video.
Talk to me about Tesla. How do you view this whole situation?
Look, when you invest in an entrepreneur, you get the entrepreneur, and Elon is quite the entrepreneur. So how can anybody expect anything different? And if you look at the great companies right now with the largest market caps, I mean, Apple, Steve Jobs, everybody complained at one point or another about Steve. He got fired. You look at Amazon, everybody complained about Jeff. Oh, he's not trying to make any money. He's not giving guidance. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. Reed Hastings, the same thing. You know, when you invest in an entrepreneur, you get the personality. And if that's not appropriate, if you don't think it's right, buy another stock.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, the fundamentals matter, don't they? I mean, whether Tesla's going to go private or not, that's at the heart of this conversation.
But fundamentals, it depends where you are in your life cycle, right, or the growth cycle of the company. You know, if you look at the companies I just mentioned, everybody complained about Amazon. Fundamentals matter. Everybody complained about Netflix. Fundamentals mattered. Again, Steve Jobs got fired from Apple. Fundamentals matter, and they brought in John Sculley, a traditional entrepreneur or a traditional CEO who was good at what he did, but he wasn't the guy to drive Apple to new heights. They had to bring Steve back. That's just the nature of great companies. These guys, they don't cash out like me. They stay there because they're committed and they're dedicated, and you've got to take some of the uniqueness of each person as part of what you invest in.
It's not a major position for us, but in our view, the company is likely to go bankrupt. Can't tell you exactly when, but that's pretty much our bare thesis on it.
Carson, I have a quick question for you. You do not believe that there is enough demand there, that demand is slowing up. What is that based on? Is that just based on a gut feeling, based on the fact that they are now lowering the price on this vehicle as well as the Model S and the Model X? Or do you have other data, anything that you can point to say, look, there is no doubt that they are slowing down in terms of demand?
So lowering the prices, especially to points where it seems like they're losing money on some of the cars, I'd say is a giveaway. Also, it's the delivery times. If you go on the websites, the anticipated delivery times for the cars now are pretty short. So it seems like they're probably not building new cars to satisfy that demand, but rather pulling cars out of existing inventory stockpiles. And those stockpiles are pretty well chronicled on the internet with lots of photos of parking lots brimming with Teslas. So that's why we also think that there's a demand issue here.
I have to weigh in on this.
Please.
Yeah. I own a Tesla, and don't say anything wrong to me about that company. All right, I invest in it. All you have to do is get a Tesla or borrow one and drive around, and you are sold. These guys are just hedging their bets. They don't want to be wrong in their predictions, so they're taking it down a little. It's all nonsense.
So you
that
own
guy's
a Tesla.
a winner.
You own a Tesla.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean,
love them.
what about the competition?
The dashboard alone is enough to just buy. Just if they sold me the dashboard, I'd be happy sitting at home looking at it.
Without wheels, without anything else. Just want the dashboard.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the concept, though. It is a nicely made car.
Better than nice. It's gorgeous.
I've never actually driven one, but a lot of people have said that because BMW, Porsche, all these other car manufacturers are moving into the EV space now, it's not going to be enough just to be a nice looking car.
You know what's wrong with that? The old guy never creates a new trick, and they never catch up. You always need a guy that's a wild man like he is to create something new. And by the time the big guys wake up to it, they can never catch up. I'm totally confident in it. I would upgrade their stock, and I think I'm going to start something, so I start rating stocks. That's what I think. And Tesla's going to get my vote.
Barbara, I didn't think you'd be such a big Elon Musk fan, but it's
definitely.
really.
I love his car.
He is core to the company too, though, right? You're talking about a way that he leads the company. It is Elon Musk's company.
He's rough, but let me tell you, any great leader is rough. Any great leader has a strong opinion and isn't so smooth on the edges and drives it home. But that's what you want when you want to reinvent a category, and that's what he's done. You have to hand it to the guy. And he's good looking, I think.
Double whammy.
I haven't covered any of it. I believe the next data points are very clear. Tesla will miss the third quarter production. They did not reiterate their financial guidance in the blog post Friday night. Most companies, when they have big news this late in the quarter, will reiterate guidance to assure investors that operations are on track. And I believe imminently, in the next couple of months, Elon Musk will be removed as CEO of Tesla.
By the board, Gabe, or by some other outside investigation from the SEC or whatever it might be?
The SEC, CNBC had an amazing interview with Teresa Goody, former general counsel of the SEC, just this morning. I would encourage anybody interested in Tesla to listen to it. And if anyone thinks that the SEC is not serious about this matter, they absolutely are. This was, in my view, the most egregious and naked example of securities fraud I've ever seen from a CEO in my 18 years as a hedge fund manager.
But again, this is a guy who's sleeping in the factory. This is a guy who's pushing. And if you go through the list of all the companies I just mentioned, all the FANGs, maybe with the exception of Google. I mean, even Facebook. When Facebook went public, then they had the questions about mobile. Then people questioned whether or not Zuckerberg can run it. Now Facebook's going through other issues. Again, people are questioning Zuckerberg. Great entrepreneurs who are so committed to their companies that they are never going to leave. They want to take it as far as they can take it. They are going to be unique, and there are going to be issues in how they address the public and how they address shareholders. And that's the beauty of why those companies are so amazing and so big. And so I would tell shareholders, be grateful that you have somebody that committed to the company and recognize that, being unique is what has helped make Elon or helped make Tesla so successful.
JJ is short Tesla.
I'm shorted through options, and John and Pete talk about options all the time. This is a perfect type of stock to use it in if you're going to go long or short, because it's a high-priced stock. With that, Phil talked about the reason that I just have a tough time with this one, and that is they talked about 5,000 per week. They were at 800 per week at the end of 2017, and it just seems like every time they get momentum, bad news comes out. They're laying off employees. The CEO makes a text that's questionable. Every time they get momentum, something draws them back. And at some point, they have to be measured.
What's the time frame of your trade?
It's only about a month and a half. So,
a month and a half,
yeah.
okay. And you see the stock going down to what?
I see the stock, could go all the way back down to 320. There's possible.
I'm going to tell you a couple of quick reasons to love Tesla, even if you have no position, even if you're bearish on what happens with the stock from here. It just makes so many people look so foolish. First of all, only one profitable quarter ever since coming public, and that's from selling carbon credits. Believe me, it's not from selling cars profitably. Doesn't matter. Stock's gone from $2 billion to $60 billion. It also is not in the S&P. So this argument that the only stocks that go up are in the index, false. And then an even bigger picture than that, and most importantly, this is really a stock that came public expensive. So it was never, people say, oh, it's a bubble. Well, they were saying bubble when it IPO'd in 2010 almost every day, especially given that first day's performance. So a lot of things get thrown out the window with a stock like this, and I just delight in all of it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about it. It's why I'm glad you asked me the time frame, because I don't think I would be a long-term necessarily, but I do think this is a type of stock that the momentum fades quickly down to a certain level, often between the 320, 300 area. Then they build momentum again. So if you're trading this, do not.
We've seen that so many times.
Right. I don't see it as a longer-term trade. So I just want to be clear on that.
You think he's taken the shorts too seriously, or become consumed with what short sellers have been saying?
Yeah, it's hard not to, right? When it's your baby, a lot of times it's hard not to take all that personally. It's hard not to feel it inside of you. Particularly, to be a great entrepreneur, you've got to be so competitive. And all the people that I've mentioned all had their persnickety issues, but they were all incredibly competitive, and including Elon. And when you're that competitive and people are nailing and talking bad about your family like that, it's hard not to respond. And he's got to learn not to respond. But look, it happens to me talking about the Mavericks. It happens to a lot of different people. When you're criticized, it's hard not to return fire sometimes.
Let me ask you this. I'm intrigued in and of itself by the fact that you don't own Tesla. I mean, you've owned high valuation stocks in the past. Why not this one?
I just don't know the industry well enough. I mean, I know streaming, so I've owned Netflix since 50. I know Amazon and what they've done, and I've owned it off and on for a long time when it was single digits, all the way up until I sold it, I think, at the 900s. And then when it came back to 700, I went all in and just bought, more than I probably should have at the time, and now I'm happy about it. So, those are industries that I fully understand, and those are, Netflix and Amazon are my two biggest holdings.
Greg, you haven't shaken your head, but I think inside your head you are.
Yeah, there's one thing I agree with, and Elon Musk, whether or not he keeps the CEO title is completely irrelevant. You could put him in one of his rockets, send him to Mars, and he's still going to be the most important person at Tesla. So Judge Nathan, if she wants to hold him in contempt, has a pretty tricky issue to deal with. It's a great company. They deserve a lot of credit for what they've accomplished. And I think there is potential for some significant drama in the courtroom.
Okay, but you don't think the stock is worth $4,000. You don't even think it's worth what it is on the screen right now.
No, I think we have to take a close look at what the actual battery prices are. There's hard economic data out there. Bob Lutz has been talking about this for a couple years. I have the data, right? $240 a kilowatt hour is what they're paying for cells out of Japan. The cost of the Gigafactory is higher. And what is Porsche and VW paying? VW is paying $250 a kilowatt hour. There is no economic advantage on battery costs at Tesla. The cost of the batteries are too high for these massive growth numbers that people are projecting.
And that's the basis. And that's the basis of your bearish call.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's not about autonomy. It's not about all of these other things that she's talking about.
It's the fact that the cost of the cars is way too high. They're too expensive.
Tasha, you buy that?
So on a range per kilowatt hour basis, Tesla has the most efficient batteries. So other automakers that are undercutting them on price are likely sacrificing performance. So this is what's going to allow Tesla to produce a car that performs well for much cheaper than competitors. And when we've already heard signs of this in the news. I mean, there was an article saying that Porsche and Audi had done a teardown of the Model 3 and were basically scared because they realized exactly how cheap Tesla was able to produce this car, and they had to go rethink things themselves.
I agree with her on the battery issue. Sam Jaffe at Cairn Energy Research, who tracks battery per kilowatt hour and cell cost per kilowatt hour, he has Tesla well ahead of their competitors. Now, that may differ with what you have, but I buy into what Sam's, and I've looked at his research, and I buy into what he's saying in terms of the cost advantage there. Now, are they at a point where they're going to be making money on these vehicles at a lower price point, say $35,000? No, they're not there yet. But they are ahead of their competitors in that regard. Whether that holds is the big question.
When do you see these competitors coming online in a meaningful way in terms of true competition to the Tesla?
It's starting this year. That's why I chose to initiate with a bearish perspective. Right, Porsche is going to come on with the Taycan. You've got Kia. You've got the I-Pace.
How many cars do you think they're actually going to sell?
So you got to look at the history. So the Cayenne, right? The first they said 10, then they said 20, then it became 40. So it ramped very, very quickly. They set expectations low, make a lot of money on the front end, and ramp. And Porsche, it all depends. Their business is making money, right? They're not about, fluffing numbers. So if they think they can sell 30,000 cars into the market over the next, 18 months and make great profit on it, they'll do it, right? But they're not going to flood the market to a point where, it compresses margins.
Thinks Tesla has room to run. In fact, she thinks Tesla could hit $15,000 a share within the next 4 years. Let's bring in ARK Invest CEO and founder Cathie Wood. Cathie, welcome. I know $15,000 a share is not your base case.
No.
It's your reach case. What is your base case of where this $700 stock is in 4 years?
Yes, the base case, it's a 5-year target, so the end of 24, it's $7,000. And we've arrived at that price by weighting the probabilities of 10 different scenarios, including bankruptcy, to be honest. So we've tried to be as fair and balanced as we possibly could be. But our confidence level that this stock is heading for $7,000 over the next 5 years is very high.
So you take out your lowest probability scenarios, you take out the ones that you think just aren't going to work, or the highly outlandish ones where everything has to click exactly right. On what bricks is this $7,000 foundation founded? Is it improving margins? Is it lowering the cost of production of the vehicles as they get up to scale, or what?
Yes, there are 3 sources for the increase in our estimate, our estimated price target. One is, as Tesla killers entered the market last year, we expected Tesla's market share to go down from 17% globally, that includes China, to something lower. Instead, it went up to 18%. And the reason it
17% in electric vehicles or in all vehicles?
No, electric vehicles.
Vehicles.
This is global. There are many electric vehicle manufacturers in China. Very low quality, but very. So what we're learning is Tesla is just so far ahead of the pack. And I'm talking about the BMWs, the Mercedes, as far as range and other important metrics when it comes to electric vehicles. Their battery cost is 3 years ahead, 3 to 4 years ahead of any other auto manufacturer in terms of the cost declines. And so every other auto manufacturer will, if they want to be competitive with Tesla, and I'm including BMW and Daimler and all, if they want to be competitive, like for like, they will have to sell their cars at a loss at the same time they're losing their internal combustion engine business.
Take Tyler's question to the next level. Yes. Do you dig in and get granular on the opportunities when you look at the sum of the parts? Is it going to be panels, autonomous drive, or batteries that are the new breakout? Because when we look to Tyler's point, when we look at the cars in production, everyone thinks they're an expert on what they can and can't do with Tesla. But is there going to be shockers going forward where there's going to be a breakout valuation on batteries because their technology is so far advanced?
Yeah, I think they acquired a company called Maxwell Technologies, and they've been very secretive about what that is going to do for their battery technology. So what I just said to you does not even incorporate Maxwell. So yes, we do think there are surprises on the battery front. They have their own AI chip for autonomous, the only auto manufacturer to have one. And James Wang, who worked at our analyst, who worked at NVIDIA for 8-9 years, took a look at those specs and said 4 years ahead of anything that NVIDIA is going to be able to produce, because it's single purpose, it's not general purpose. So we think they're going to be way ahead of the game on autonomous. And that's where the real surprises are going to be, because autonomous is a recurring revenue, very high margin, almost software as a service like opportunity, autonomous taxi networks. And what you have baked in the cake from the street primarily are low margin gross margins, more like auto, in the 25-30% range. We actually think gross margins, because of their battery technology, could head for 40% on the EV itself, and then the incremental revenues from autonomous would be in the 80% plus range. And we think that's what people are missing. And in our $7,000 target, so the scenario testing, we assume only a 25% chance that they're going to be up and running with autonomous within 2 to 3 years.
So quickly, and this is near term, do you expect volatility around earnings? There was in the last couple of years, but like for instance, they sold cars at a 450,000 annualized rate last quarter, right? And when you look at their net income, it all came from selling tax credits. Do you expect that to be a big component of it? And does it look like that at other places around the world? We're expecting really a lot of growth to come.
Quick answer, subsidies? Please.
Yes.
They're going to get a lot of credits from companies like Fiat Chrysler, who's paying them $500 to offset. So we think that, but that's not in our models. We never include subsidies in our models. What we're talking about right now is Tesla is ready for prime time as an EV and AV manufacturer.
Kudos to you. I mean, you had what I thought was an outlandish target 2 years ago or 1.5 years ago, and here we are. And so you have another one, maybe outlandish, maybe spot on. But let me ask you, when you get to this 7,000, to pick your more moderate case, what's it trading at? As a multiple of earnings, or as a what will that valuation then be?
So in 5 years, again, we don't really operate like that. We're just trying to figure out the cash flows and then discount them. But one of the things that I'd like to focus on is the reason this is going to be such a big upside surprise is because Tesla is riding the convergence of 3 major innovation platforms. Convergence. It's very hard to analyze this in the traditional world, right? Auto analysts are not robotics experts. They are not artificial intelligence experts or battery experts. We have 3 analysts working on this model together. All of them are characterized by exponential growth.
Overall, I believe Tesla is a fantastic stock with fantastic management, headed by the great Elon Musk. However, since day one, I do believe the stock has been defying gravity in an unbelievable way. And thus, I do believe it's overvalued in the short term. However, I agree that in the long term, it can reach these major price targets. So what have I done? Well, I do have a small stake in Tesla, which I purchased at around $500, $600 a share, which was a really, really fair price looking at its current values. But the real question is, can Tesla back up all this hype with car sales? Will we all be driving Teslas one day? And will its portable power systems be ubiquitous? Let me know your thoughts on Tesla in the comments below, and I'll join in the discussion. In addition, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. And if you'd like more stock market investing tips and exclusive stock picks, which I personally have invested into, then you should definitely subscribe to this channel. And with that being said, I will see you guys on the next video. Invest safe.